You ever have one of those days where you're literally fighting a fire and someone still thinks they know better than a trained professional? Because let me tell you, I've had one, and it was wild. Get ready, Redditors. This is a tale straight from the front lines of absurdity, featuring a woman who went full Karen on a controlled burn. I'm Ethan, and I'm a volunteer firefighter in a small town. For a while now, I've been seriously thinking about making the leap going full-time. There's just something about the adrenaline, the focus, the sheer raw power of battling a blaze that hooks you. It's not just the thrill, it's the purpose, you know. So when the call came in from the local council and forest management about a large-scale burn-off, I jumped at it. They needed extra hands, and I saw it as a prime opportunity to show what I could do. This wasn't some uncontrolled inferno. It was a carefully planned, meticulously managed operation designed to prevent actual wildfires by clearing undergrowth. I suited up in my full gear, the heavy coat, the helmet, the whole 9 yards, and headed out. When I got there, the air was thick with the smell of smoke and burning brush, and the roar of the flames was a deep rumble in my chest. You could feel the heat radiating off it, a tangible presence. It was intense, exhilarating, and frankly, a beautiful display of nature being tamed, even if just for a bit. My crew was spread out, hoses at the ready, carefully herding the fire where it needed to go. I was focused, watching for any sign of a breach, making sure our lines held. That's when she appeared. A woman, probably in her late 40s or early 50s, stomping across the perimeter, her child, a kid who looked about 8 and seemed utterly mortified, trailing behind her. She had that certain look, you know. The one that screams, "I'm about to inform you of something you're doing wrong." She marched right up to me, hands on her hips. "Excuse me," she snapped, not even waiting for me to acknowledge her. "What exactly do you think you're doing here? This is an absolute outrage. You're setting the whole forest on fire." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm and professional over the crackle of the flames. "Ma'am, this is a controlled burn. It's a necessary part of forest management to prevent larger, more dangerous wildfires. We have a full crew, heavy equipment, and a strategic plan in place. Everything is under control." She wasn't having it. Her face was getting red. "Under control? Look at that smoke. My house is barely a mile from here. You're putting my property, my child's safety, and the entire community at risk with this reckless behavior." She gestured wildly towards the burning brush, as if I personally lit it all up just to annoy her. I tried again, patient but firm. "We've got fire breaks, water tenders, and multiple crews. We've been planning this for weeks with local authorities. There's no risk to the community, I assure you." Her voice rose a few decibels. "Don't you dare assure me. I know a fire hazard when I see one. This is irresponsible. I'm going to call the city council, the mayor, the governor, everyone. You'll all be fired." My captain, who'd been overseeing a section nearby, must have heard the commotion. He walked over, a calm but serious look on his face. "Ethan, please get this woman and her child away from the burned perimeter. It's not safe." I turned back to her, trying to guide her gently. "Ma'am, for your safety and the safety of your child, you need to step back. This area is restricted." But she just scoffed, folding her arms. "Oh, now you're trying to intimidate me. I'm not leaving until this madness stops. This is an environmental disaster." Then she turned her indignant fury on me personally. "And you're just a volunteer, aren't you? What do you know about professional firefighting? You're probably just out here for the thrill, aren't you, you reckless idiot?" That stung. I am passionate about this, and yeah, there's a thrill, but it's about protecting people, doing my part. Being dismissed as a reckless idiot by someone who clearly had no idea what she was talking about. It was a struggle to keep my composure. "Ma'am, whether I'm a volunteer or full-time, I'm trained, and I'm following direct orders from my captain and forest management. You need to leave. Now." But she was too far gone. Her face contorted with anger, and she actually shoved past me, heading straight for my captain. "I want to speak to the person in charge. This volunteer here is being completely unprofessional and verbally abusive." She was shouting, accusing me of God knows what, her voice cracking with manufactured outrage. My captain, bless his patient soul, tried to de-escalate. "Ma'am, I am in charge here. This operation is perfectly safe and authorized. We need you to move away from the active burn area." She just stood there, hands on her hips, practically vibrating with indignation, a stream of grievances about public safety, and incompetent personnel pouring out of her. Eventually, probably realizing she wasn't going to get us to shut down a government-sanctioned fire because she felt like it, she let out a frustrated huff, grabbed her completely silent and wide-eyed child, and stomped off. She kept yelling over her shoulder about lawsuits and complaints until she was well out of earshot. I just stood there for a moment, watching her retreating figure, then looked at the flickering flames and the hardworking crew. My captain just gave me a weary look and a slight shake of his head. "Some people, Ethan," he mumbled. I had to laugh, a short, exasperated chuckle. Only in this job, only in this country, do you encounter someone who thinks their Yelp review will override the fire brigade. It was a bizarre interlude in an otherwise serious day, and it just reinforced for me why I want to go full-time. Because for every crazy outburst, there are 100 real situations where you make a genuine difference. So yeah, that was my encounter with the lady who thought she knew more about fire management than the actual firefighters. Hope it gave you a good laugh. Stay safe out there, folks.
All right, the last story is wild, and it's not what you think. Before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next round.
You ever have one of those days where you're just trying to grab some groceries, minding your own business, and then boom, you're involved in a full-blown physical altercation that ends with someone in handcuffs? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. And trust me, it wasn't on my bingo card for the week. So I was at the store, just cruising down the pasta aisle. Had my trusty earbuds in, lost in a particularly hilarious episode of The Office. Michael Scott was doing something utterly cringeworthy, and I was trying my best not to audibly snort when I felt it. Not a gentle tap, but a sharp, insistent poke on my shoulder, followed by another and another. It was less "excuse me" and more "I demand your immediate attention." I peeled an earbud out, a sigh already building in my chest. Standing there, tapping one of her impossibly high heels with the impatience of a hummingbird on a sugar rush, was a woman who practically radiated, "I'm the main character. We'll call her Karen, because, well, of course we will." Her face was set in that familiar, entitled grimace, like I'd personally offended her by existing in her general vicinity. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. My nerves were already buzzing. There's just something about that aggressive, high-heeled tapping that puts me on edge, like a tiny internal alarm going off. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a step closer, reached out and poked my ear. Not a gentle touch, mind you, but a definite poke, right into the ear canal where my earbud had just been. Now, I'm not a violent guy, never have been, but there's a primal, lizard brain part of me that reacts purely on instinct when someone invades my personal space like that, especially when it's so unexpected and aggressive. It was a pure, unadulterated flinch. My arm flew back, not really a punch, more like a desperate, involuntary shove for distance, and unfortunately, her face was right there. The smack echoed in the surprisingly quiet aisle. I felt it connect, a solid thwack. My jaw dropped. I was utterly, completely stunned. I mean, I hit her. What the hell just happened? Karen, however, recovered from her surprise a lot faster than I did. Her eyes widened, her face went from indignant to absolutely incandescent with rage, and then the wailing started. "You assaulted me. You punched me in the face. I'm calling the police. You're going to jail." Her voice, already shrill, escalated to a piercing shriek that could probably shatter glass. Every head in the aisle, then every head in the adjacent aisles, swiveled to stare. You touched me first," I stammered, still reeling. "You poked me in the ear. It was an accident, a reflex." She was having none of it. "Liar, you just attacked me for no reason. I just asked you a question." She clutched her face, though there wasn't a visible mark, and started to build up dramatic tears. Just then the store manager, a harried-looking guy named Mark, rushed over. He'd obviously heard the commotion. "What's going on here?" he asked, trying to sound authoritative but looking utterly exhausted. Karen immediately launched into a theatrical monologue about how I, a seemingly innocent shopper, had savagely assaulted her without provocation. She pointed at me, her finger trembling with manufactured outrage. "He just punched me. I think he works here. He was stalking something." Mark looked at me, a skeptical eyebrow raised. "Sir, do you work for us?" "No, I don't," I said, trying to keep my voice even despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "And she's lying. She came up to me, poked me in the ear, and I flinched. It was a defensive reaction. She assaulted me first." Karen scoffed, "Don't listen to him. He's a psychopath." Mark thankfully looked like he'd dealt with his fair share of Karens. He went into manager mode, trying to de-escalate. "Okay, let's calm down. Ma'am, sir, the police are on their way." He probably called them the second he heard the shrieking. When the officers arrived, Karen immediately started her sob story again, pointing at me like I was a wild animal. I, on the other hand, just gave them the calm, unvarnished truth. I explained how she approached, the persistent tapping, the ear poke, my involuntary reaction, and my shock at what had happened. I emphasized that I had not intended to strike her, but that her actions had directly led to my instinct taking over. One of the officers, a no-nonsense woman, listened to both of us, then looked at Mark. "Manager, do you have security footage for this aisle?" Mark nodded, clearly relieved to have a definitive answer. "Yes, officer, we can pull it right away." The next few minutes felt like an eternity. Karen was still muttering about my violence and her injuries. I just stood there, trying to breathe, waiting for the truth to speak for itself. When the officer came back, her expression was grim, but it wasn't directed at me. She walked directly up to Karen. "Ma'am, the security footage clearly shows you approaching Mr. Thompson, attempting to get his attention, and then making physical contact by poking him in the ear. His reaction, while unfortunate, appears to be an involuntary defensive reflex to your actions. Therefore, based on the evidence, you are being arrested for battery." Karen's jaw went slack, the color drained from her face. "What? No, he hit me. This is ridiculous. I'm not being arrested." But it was too late. The officer was already pulling out her cuffs. Karen protested, yelled, even tried to pull away, but it was futile. She was cuffed, read her rights, and led out of the store, still sputtering about injustice and how she'd sue everyone. It was a bizarre, almost surreal sight, seeing her disappear behind the automatic doors, her high heels clacking a final, defiant rhythm on the linoleum. Mark, the manager, looked at me sheepish. "Mr. Thompson, I am so incredibly sorry you had to go through that. We'll be filing a report, and of course, if you want to press charges, we'll cooperate fully. I've got the officer's direct contact for you. He even offered me a store gift card for my trouble." I took the officer's number and the card. As for pressing charges, absolutely. I didn't want to see her ruined, but I did want her to face the consequences. People like her who feel entitled to invade others' personal space and then cry foul when there's a reaction need a serious reality check. That immediate, invasive touch was a violation, and my body reacted to protect itself. It's a fundamental lesson in respecting boundaries, one I hope she finally learned. Walking out of the store, the afternoon sun felt particularly bright. It had been a wild, unexpected ride, all because someone couldn't just say, "Excuse me." You never know what kind of drama is lurking behind the cereal boxes, do you? Just another day in the wild world of retail, I guess.
You ever just try to do one simple, utterly mundane chore like swapping out a dead propane tank and suddenly find yourself starring in some bizarre, unsolicited customer service drama? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. I was just trying to get my grill tank exchanged. You know the drill, pull up to the cage, grab a full one, and head inside. Easy, or so I thought. I was halfway across the sprawling parking lot minding my own business when I heard it. A faint, but definitely stressed, cry for help. Now, I'm not a cape-wearing hero, but I'm not heartless either. When I saw this woman, probably late 50s, early 60s, wrestling a big microwave with all the grace of a caffeinated octopus trying to parallel park, my helpful instincts kicked in. She was huffing and puffing, trying to hoist it into the trunk of her sedan, clearly losing the battle. "Need a hand with that?" I called out, figuring I'd be in and out in 30 seconds. She practically sagged with relief. "Oh, thank goodness, yes please, I just can't get it to cooperate." So I walked over, grunted a bit, and together we managed to get the behemoth into her trunk. We did the whole awkward maneuver, pushing and twisting until it was wedged in there just right. "There you go," I said, wiping my hands on my jeans, already thinking about my cold drink at home. She beamed, a little too brightly, I thought, and then pointed a perfectly manicured finger at her empty shopping cart still rattling by her car. "Oh, perfect. While you're at it, honey, could you just take this back for me? It's right on your way." My smile froze. Wait, what? My brain stuttered. Actually, I don't work here, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I even gestured vaguely at my normal clothes. She just waved a dismissive hand like my objection was a fly she couldn't be bothered to swat. Oh, it's fine. It's really no trouble. Just push it over there. She gestured towards the store, which was, for the record, a good 100 yards away on the other side of a sea of cars. I stood there for a beat, dumbfounded. The audacity, but I'm also someone who hates confrontation, especially after just doing someone a favor. And honestly, I just wanted to get out of there. Fine, I mumbled, trying not to let my irritation show. I guess I can. What's one little cart, right? Wrong, so wrong. I grabbed the cart handle, pushed off, and immediately realized this wasn't just an empty cart. This was a cart that had clearly been used for a week's worth of groceries, abandoned only after the entire contents were transferred. It was sluggish, heavy, and the wheels had that telltale squeak that means they're half seized. It felt like I was pushing a tank filled with concrete, and the parking lot wasn't exactly smooth sailing. I had to navigate around potholes and other parked vehicles. My 30 seconds was turning into a full-blown cardio workout. I trudged along, gritting my teeth, my earlier helpfulness rapidly evaporating into a cloud of righteous annoyance. I glanced back, expecting her to be getting in her car and driving off, but no, she was just sitting there, in the driver's seat, staring at me like she was supervising my cart-pushing performance. My blood pressure started to climb. This wasn't a request anymore, it was an expectation, an entitlement. And her just sitting there watching me struggle with her heavy, creaky cart felt like a deliberate power play, the indignity of it all. After helping her with her appliance, she couldn't even manage this tiny courtesy. I stopped maybe 40 yards from the store, nowhere near the cart return. The cart groaned under my hand. I looked back at her. She was still watching, unmoving. A quiet fury started to simmer inside me. You know what? No. This isn't how this works. Without another thought, I spun the cart around, shoved it a few feet behind her car, practically wedging it against the bumper of the car next to her. I gave it one last, frustrated push for good measure, making sure it was nowhere near the actual cart return. If she wanted it back, she was going to have to get her entitled butt out of her car and come get it. I didn't even look back at her. I just stalked off towards the exit, feeling a fierce, almost primal satisfaction. My propane exchange was going to be a minute late, but it was worth it. I heard her engine start up a few seconds later, so she must have finally moved. Good, let her deal with it. I got in my car, chuckling to myself. Some people, man, they'll take an inch and then they'll demand the whole damn mile, expecting you to jog it for them too. But not today, lady, not today.
This next story is just as wild. Give it a watch.